Hey everybody, Alex Gray here, starting episode 1 of a podcast with Greg Browning to my right. We're at his house in Torrance, California. I want to explain to you why I'm even doing this. Inside of here is a bone that was in the back of my knee, and I haven't surfed in 30 days. And a week into it, I got to stationary bike, and one of my favorite things is to reminisce on 90s surf videos. Well, it just so happens down the street of me, and the reason I ever became a professional surfer is Greg Browning. So we're starting with him, and we're gonna.
Gross.
No, you got to open it and show them.
Open it, show them.
Yeah.
I can smell it.
So that's a urine container. What does it smell like? Nothing.
It smells like fish or like salmon.
Yeah, it's gross
Salmon.
because now there's dried skin. Here, pull it out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch it. You can touch it.
Okay, this little bone right here is called a fabella. This little thing.
Fabella.
That's probably out of focus. That was lodged in the back of my knee, and every time I squat, it hurt.
From what?
20% of humans have it, and I'm one of them. And for some reason, at 33 years old, it decided to give me grief. And for a year, I did physical therapy three times a week.
Couch. Let's put it back inside here.
You don't want it there?
I don't want it there.
Oh, so Greg doesn't want it on his couch. I'm gonna make a necklace out of it.
Well, that's fine, but that still will be off my couch. Gross.
So that's how this whole idea came about. Now, we're going to take you through Greg's surf life with VHS films, because that's what I grew up with. And let's start it off with the one simply labeled Browning. Do we know who filmed this?
This is all filmed from old friend of ours, this guy Howard Eddy, who, was like the Hermosa iconic filmer back in the day.
Tracking helmet. Sorry.
Oh, just in case.
So in case you guys
I
didn't.
don't know if people know what tracking is.
Well, back in the 90s, the VHS, I'm not even sure what tracking is, but the video shows up a little bit weird sometimes, and you got to hit the tracking button. This is looking pretty good. I think our tracking helmets did its job. Yeah, we're good. I made some hats out of tinfoil to summon the tracking gods. We'll put it on every time the video starts. Greg, talk us through our first video. How old are you? And the first thing I notice is how bright your wetsuit is.
So, this is from, I think I was about 16, maybe turning 17, right around there. NSSA National Team Days. This was a body glove suit when you could go into body glove and Lonnie would custom make your suit. You can pick out any color. It would be done in about 2 weeks.
And so you chose as bright as yellow and orange get.
Well, one of my best friends at this time was Mike Balzer, photographer, and it was easier for him to spot me if I had a bright wetsuit rather than just a black wetsuit, and it looked better in the photos. So, I don't know, I spent so much time hanging out with Mike, and we'd go through stuff, and it was just one of those things, I guess. This is right when I started surfing for Channel Islands, which was because of the Malloy brothers. They set me up, and I think for my surfing was the best thing that happened to me.
I noticed that you also put color on that board.
I did. Every board that I made with color didn't work as well, I thought. So, or it would hit me like there was just a clip of me with this is Oceanside Pier. There was a clip of me with cuts on my ankles. That was from my fins. So every board I got with color would just cut me. Either head stitches, knee stitches.
Bad juju.
Bad juju.
The
Yeah,
thing
this is
that
the Bud Tour.
what immediately sticks out to me with you is style, and especially on cutbacks, I go, Greg had to have watched Tom Curran.
Well, I think growing up, I have an older brother who's 2.5 years older than me that got me into surfing, and his favorite was Tom Curran. To me, my favorite guy was whoever my brother said that I surfed like. So like he'd be like, hey, you're surfing like Mark Richards, and I'd be like, Mark Richards is my favorite surfer. And I wasn't surfing like Mark Richards. My brother was just trying to motivate me to keep surfing with him. And yeah, at one point he said I surfed like Mike Lambrisi, and then it was just all over. Like every event I could go, because Mike was on the PSAA tour, which was here, so we would go every stop to go watch Mike Lambrisi surf. And it was awesome. He was one of the greatest guys when you actually got to meet him.
I
Yeah,
remember
he
him
was
as being a
awesome.
commentator, and I recently saw him as a surfer, and he ripped.
He's still so good. He's actually just kind of flaring up on Instagram right now, and I think his wife is become his photographer, video partner, and he ripped. He had cool style. He used to wear breaker out wetsuits, which then I had to wear breaker out wetsuits because you want to do what your favorite surfer does all the time.
Because you surf like Mike Lambrisi.
Because my brother said I surf like Mike Lambrisi.
Okay, there's a slow-mo video clip here that we're watching, and for me, this is like a definitive moment for Greg, because I think it's a turn that you're the only person in the world that I've seen do. It's this quick kind of layback under the lip, and where we grew up in the South Bay, it's really fast, closed-out waves. And is that why you developed that turn?
No, it really was, I was always really skinny, and doing those like big rail carves was always the most difficult thing. So it was easier to kind of be skatier and stuff, and it is. We live in the one-turn wonder world, so you just grow up looking for one turn. So I don't know. I think it just kind of happened, and I made one day, and I don't know. It's probably my brother again that said I did it like somebody else, and so I thought it was cool, so I just kept doing it.
How long is your board here? Because that's what's changed so much to current day. I mean, this looks like a 6-foot board.
Yeah, I rode 5'11", 6.0s for most of my career, 6'1s even, as I got a little heavier. Wow, it's crazy watching all of this
Where
stuff.
are we now?
I gotta see what wetsuit this is. Same board, right? Same board.
Looks like same board. It looks like a sandbar. A really fun double-up sandbar. Would you travel as a teenager? Did you get time off of school to be able to do NSSAs? How did you...
No, the cool thing about NSSAs was they were all pretty much driving distance for the weekend. So I grew up with these two twin brothers, the Brewers, Keith and Derek, and I did contests we did our first contest together, WSA at Malibu, where we surfed against Corey Pierce, who absolutely annihilated everybody because he just surfed better than anybody else at that time. Spyder Wasilewski was doing those contests back then.
Yes.
It was classic, but I grew up with them, and they would drive everywhere. Their dad would take us in his Astro van, and then when they got their cars first, and then we would just go. When I got my car was when I was really hanging out with Ryan Simmons a lot.
Hang on, sorry, we gotta rewind this.
At that time.
Dude, that was so crazy.
See, it's really slidey. Like, I think our generation got crap from like the generation before, because they were such great, amazing rail surfers. And I think as you develop as a surfer, you learn to use your rails, you learn to use your fins more, and different parts of the wave. And at that time, we were just sliding everywhere.
All right, we had a intermission of the video and then a massive change in location.
This is Ventura.
And you're wearing a contest jersey.
Yeah, this is the contest at the old jetty at the Rivermouth, which is still there, but they took out, or they added a jetty to it. And I was staying with the Malloys. I always stayed at their house, their parents' house. It was like the coolest surf house you could stay at. They had a boat out front. Their mom and dad were just the coolest people in the world. That hurt.
Were you competitive?
I was hyper competitive growing up. And then I think what happened was you start to kind of lose friends as you compete. And I just stopped liking that feeling. So I stopped. And I love to travel and I love to surf. So I just kind of tried to find that out. This is all small Santa Clara.
Well, but what age did you stop competing at?
I think I was about like 20, 21, 22. I kind of started getting over it.
Okay.
I think I realized at the time that I was never going to be Kelly or Rob or Shane or Ross, but I could still travel with them and develop my surfing and surf good waves and have fun. And that was kind of what I was more into.
So as this goes along, we're gonna get into that chapter of your
That was
life.
Donnie Solomon.
Really?
Donnie was our
Didn't I
Tom
do the
Curran.
Donnie Solomon Memorial?
For sure. Donnie took Keith and I everywhere. He surfed like Curran to us. He was our surf guru. If Donnie thought it was cool, it was the coolest thing ever.
I remember it was one of the first contests I ever
That's
did
him again.
was the Donnie. How did he pass
Donnie
away?
Solomon. He died out at Waimea one year. He just.
Oh,
That's him. That's so rad.
There's a photo of the wave that he died on, or is the wave prior, at Waimea. I've seen it.
It's at Islands. Oh, that's Hermosa.
Okay, we just watched Greg jump off the top of a wave that looks like a closeout, so it must be home.
It's Well, this is, I think, Ventura again. It's cool because when the guys I grew up surfing with, we'd take turns filming each other. When I went to the Malloys, we would take turns filming each other. And it was just a time where video cameras were more attainable to families. So you were getting a chance to, go out and film each other.
Was it handheld or with a tripod?
No, it's a tripod. It just wasn't a fluid head tripod, So,
Did you have a plan of, okay, everyone gets to ride 3 waves and then you come in and switch?
Oh, you would call it. It was a full thing, filming first or not filming first, filming third, and it's like shotgun in a car. You almost wanted to film first just so, you could get it out of the way and then surf for 3 hours. It sucked to film second. You made a huge deal to not film second.
I've tried to do that, and I've always the guy that never actually went in. I just kept surfing. I was that guy.
So friendship level's probably pretty low.
Okay, we just got through video number 1, which was the home video. We're going to take a break for our podcast sponsor, Mountain Dew. Is that cool with you? Nolte?
It's my favorite.
Thank you.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Ever
many
since I've
fans.
known Mr. Browning, there's been some odd connection with Mountain Dew. And I haven't had one of these in, 15 years?
It's the yellow 5, I think, that makes it so incredible.
Oh, it's just as bad as I remember it. Yeah, Greg's about halfway through.
Yeah, this is my beer.
Mountain
I don't
Dew?
really like beer and alcohol, so I think this is just my beer. I never liked coffee. Last year, the last couple years, probably when I started drinking coffee, to try to not drink Mountain Dew.
You went to coffee to get off Mountain Dew.
Yeah, and there's no comparison of greatness, in my opinion. Mountain Dew always is.
You went from
the
chewing
best.
tobacco to cigarettes, then back to chewing. Anyways,
I don't know. I don't think that's like that.
not like that.
I got into Mountain Dew because it's awesome and it keeps you awake. And I edit all night long. And when you have kids and work, and extra helps.
Okay, next video is XVI. And I know the significance of these Roman numerals to you, but you're going to need to take our fans through it because it is where you're surfing. And I think everything transitions after this video from being hometown hero to Greg moving into a world-renowned surfer.
So
And what I want to show you here is your montage of you and your friends.
Okay, so this, growing up in Hermosa Beach, the best surfers surfed 16th Street in Hermosa. From Mike Purpose, Terry Stevens, the Ty Sukers, the Nick Browns. It's just where they were. I mean, it goes back to Doc Ball at the beginning of kind of more of our surf heritage. And for me, like I was saying, is there was this older guy who was retired that would come and film, Howard, and he'd be down there every day. And I kind of got invited to go one day with the Brewers and Matt Walls to go film with Howard at 16th Street. And I grew up at Hermosa Pier on the south side, and so you kind of stayed in your zone. So the Pier South was where we hung out. And then in the morning, I finally got an invite. I think I was 14. And Nolte opened it up, let Spike out.
Greg's got a little chihuahua named Spike that we think is about 32 years old at
Go
this
the other
point.
one. Yeah, he's 15. You just leave it open. He'll go out. He's eating through the door.
Okay, we're in a car. We're looking out the front window, and we get our first view of Hermosa 16th Street. Did you film this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that your first car?
That was the Turtle. It was a Chevy Chevette that I got from my grandma, and it went downhill 70, uphill about 27.
So you weren't going up any
No.
sequels.
And this is right when I stopped surfing for Channel Islands. I just graduated high school.
So we could say 18?
This is 18. This is the winter, like my 18 years old, 92. And all the guys that we grew up surfing with, Matt Walls, Chance Barber, Dave Brock. Dave was amazing. He's a policeman now. The Brewers. Howard would film it, and then I would go to his house and cut it together. So we'd use 2 VCRs, and that's how we learned how to edit.
So that was your first editing started at 18, watching this footage of yourself and making these home videos.
It was at like 15. We'd go over to his house, and then that first year from 14 to 15, meeting him was really I was this nervous little kid. And then at 15, we were going over there enough, and he would be like, hey, if you guys want to cut stuff together, and I was just on. I would spend so much time in that house just, he was a ham radio guy, so he'd be in the back room doing that. I'd be in the front with the Brewers, and we'd be cutting sections together. And
did watching all that footage and you editing it help your surfing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the best tools that anybody can have in any sport is to watch yourself, and let alone feed your ego that you have. I mean, it was our social media at the time. You just didn't really share it with as many people. You just kept staring at it yourself, or you're like, wow, I'm ripping. And Ty Suker, who was, one of the first guys around our area doing airs, came over and watched the footage with us one day, and he's like, why do you guys only watch you guys doing good turns? Like, you got to watch how you messed up and why you messed up. And it was really at that point in that conversation where it was like, hey, this video isn't just to stroke my ego, it's really to get better and improve. And ever since then, it was like, it was on. It was just like, put in the time. And when you had the VCR, you had the footage, there was no time you couldn't watch it. You know what I mean? Even though we had to watch it on a tape and not a phone, you were just in it all the time.
And like we're watching right now, there's no pausing to slow-mo.
No, if you pause a VHS tape, it puts a glitch mark on it and like a burn, and then you can't ever pause it in that same spot again. It's like you ruin it, and if it stays there for like a minute, it's ruined for life. Like almost breaks the tape in half. So like, it was pretty funny.
Well, the crazy thing about your tapes is they're all in really good condition. And I was also surprised that you have these. You have most of your video sections that tell your professional life story.
So I think I moved a lot. My parents sold our house when I was just turned 19. So I graduated. The plan was try to become a professional surfer, try to go do the contest, try to make it. And so it wasn't a college plan. That was it. And
were your parents okay with that?
Yeah, they were supportive to a point. I mean, it's not like we had a bunch of money to say, hey, Greg, go live your dream. It was like, hey, it's okay not to go to school, but you got to figure this out. And there was a point when, I was just taking advantage, I guess, of the free time when you're not going to school and you could go out late at night and, you could just kind of, I don't know, not focus as much. It was easier not to focus. And then my mom was like, we sold the house, we sold your car. You got to move out. You got to get a car. You got to figure it out. And, and by the way, you've been screwing off. So like, I don't know what you're doing with this surfing career, And I was like, holy crap, this is the biggest eye opener in the world. So it was like, okay, what am I going to do? And at that time I switched from Channel Islands to Spyder surfboards and made a really good friendship with Dennis Jarvis at the time, where he was building amazing boards. He really wanted to push board design. Dennis was an incredible surfer. He's a genius in a lot of ways. He's extremely artistic. He's very motivated, very passionate person. And I was at the time like, God, I got a guy, that's right in the same town. He's like, move in with me. We'll build this brand together. And it was the biggest kind of push in the back support, like when you're watching all of your friends you've competed against with get basically like a scholarship, like a college scholarship, like Billabongos, we're going to give you money to do the tour. That's a scholarship.
Did he start paying you?
He did. So, but he paid me through working at the shop.
So this is the next video that we're gonna watch is Spyder.
Yeah.
Lit 15. Who made it?
So I made it. Dennis had partnered up with this surf shop in Japan, Mirasaki, it was a family-owned surf shop, but they had like 35 stores at that time and were run by the family, amazing people, but they really got behind Dennis. They were the reason that Dennis was able to sell enough boards to get Tom Curran involved through Derek Hind, have money for us to build like a brand and like go after guys like Benji and Ross and Conan. And so 15 was, they bought me a camera, Canon XL1 at the time, like Taylor was using, and went to Hawaii for the winter. And there's like a 2-week trip that we did, and we took turns filming, Benji and Conan and I, and Ross, and then Taylor gave us some footage, and we went to Japan to surf a wave pool. And
We're gonna watch that.
my brother did all the music because he was going to college for audio, so he just wrote the music, went over there, the two of us put it on. I mean, this is, again, I actually edited this at the Weatherly's house in San Diego when they were doing STV.
This is the creepiest beginning to a movie.
This
ever.
Poltergeist.
That's what you did as the beginning.
I don't
of the
know,
movie.
you know, when you edit, you do things late at night. The best stuff comes late at night, and we just were late at night. This is a trip we went down to Mexico and scored waves. And we brought this guy down, Mike Dietrich. And Dietrich was just getting into filmmaking, but he hadn't shot much surf. And there was like 5 of us. And at a point break, you can't film 5 guys.
Who did you invite?
Well, it was just, we did it together. So it was Benji, me, Conan, Sean Hayes, Travis Molina. It was kind of like the Spyder team at the time.
Did you bring them onto the team through your now relationships of knowing these guys?
Yeah, so like Travis Molina was the best surfer in San Diego. He was another like Tom Curran lookalike. Conan was one of my best friends since we were about 13, 14. We met at the U.S. Championships one year. Met Benji when I was 15.
I gotta rewind this.
Yeah.
This is the second rewind we've done. I don't know if this is you or Benji, but
Benji.
It's the beginning of your guys' one-footed layback snaps that no one does anymore, and I don't know what started this for you guys.
Benji rips. Like, whatever you hear about Benji as being the kind of conduit of friendships, he was, because he's funny, but he surfs incredible. His natural surfing ability is what draws you in at the start. It's like, this guy makes everything look so easy. It's Dave Post.
Yeah, and Dave rips. Now, do you have a Billabong sticker on your board here?
Yeah, I was riding for Billabong because
So
Paul Gomez
you've
and
gone
Bob
from
Hurley.
Body Glove to Quicksilver to Billabong?
So at the time, like, Body Glove just made wetsuits. Quicksilver didn't make wetsuits. Billabong didn't make wetsuits. It was like Rip Curl, Body Glove, O'Neill made wetsuits. None of them made clothes. So you would ride for a wetsuit company and a clothing company. And then we were like a transition. So like I rode for Billabong and Body Glove.
That's crazy, because now you see everybody has, Kelly for the longest time only had a Quicksilver on his board.
Yeah, Kelly was the beginning, and it's funny because Kelly had one sponsor, you're like, wow, his board looks so clean and cool. But meanwhile, like, Rob's got like 20 sponsors, so and he still has them today.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what worked out better. I would imagine their bank would be able to tell that, but like, I don't know, like different approach of doing things,
For me, this video symbolizes you really moving into the beginning of your professional surf career. Like, really getting out of the South Bay and hanging out with what is the beginning of the Momentum generation.
It was at 19 pretty much, so, none of us looked at we were any type of generation at all. You were just like...
Who coined that? The magazines?
There was an old school, new school. The majority of it was guys like Kelly, Shane Beshin, Shane Powell, Shane Herring. There was just a movement coming under like the Martin Potters, and Sonny Garcia was like this anomaly in the middle, right? He was kind of in his own era, really younger than the Potters, but a little bit older than the Slaters, right? But Sonny's not that old, you know? Like, when you look at Kelly, he's not much older than Kelly.
How old are you?
I am 45 now.
How old's Kelly?
I think Kelly's 48.
So is everybody
47.
within 5 years of each other?
So pretty much like 2 or 3. I think Taylor Knox is the oldest of our group of friends. Kalani and Timmy Kern were the youngest, and Dan Malloy. So they called themselves the preschool with Cody Steele, Taylor's brother, and you know, but as the time goes on, everything becomes like more bunched up. So there wasn't preschool. It's just like now it's the momentum generation. It was the new school, you know. But none of us looked at it like that. We were just trying to watch ourselves surf on video and trying to get better and trying to go to more places to surf. So for me, it was that kick in the butt from mom saying like, hey, you know, world's changing for you. Like, you got to figure it out. And me kind of like, okay, what am I going to attach to? What goals am I going to set up? And you know, it's so important, I think, to establish some goals, because the minute you finish high school, it's like, you know, unless your parents have been plugging away like college, like as a kid, if you're like, I'm gonna finish high school and go become a pro surfer, so it's like that you just go in this little fish to this giant pond, and there's just so many ways to go and so many ways to get lost. Like, so to set those little goals, this is what I always told you, like, you'd call and be like, okay, I did this, what do I do next? And I'd be like, well, maybe you could try to do this, and you know, and all of a sudden you do it, and it was like, wait, okay, so, but you had goals, and that was kind of, I always thought it was important. I try to do that with my kids, is like, set a goal, keep it simple, you know, like something that's attainable, yet something a little further out that maybe isn't so it's more of a 5-year than a 1 year. And God, we were always like, if you hadn't gotten paid to surf by 21, 22, you might as well hang it up, do construction, and that's it.
They weren't paying people until that age, because right now they're paying kids at 10 years old.
There was a couple guys that were getting money early, but it wasn't much money, and there wasn't a lot to go around, right? There's only enough for like Kelly Robb, you know, like, you know, it's like a 20 spot, you know, of guys, whereas opposed to like, you know, like really there's 60 that could be it, you know, and you know, you fall down and like maybe you were 61, like, do I get any money? And like, I remember the Doonan brothers, I think it's Doonan brothers we all rode for Quicksilver, and they were the ones that kind of got picked by Quicksilver to get a little bit of money to try to help out right when we all kind of graduated NSSA, more or less. And you know, Billabong had helped Keith out, and I was kind of an anomaly, I think, because I lived in the South Bay. I had such a close tie to Body Glove because of growing up here, and Mike Balzer working there, that I never wanted to give that up. And you know, at one point I kind of went with Body Glove instead of Billabong, thinking that was the right thing to do. And that was when I lined up with Quicksilver, so it was Quicksilver, Body Glove. But I wasn't making much money, you know. The most money I made was a year when I got a cover, because I got photo incentive and went on, I think it was Focus, was the year after Focus was the most money I made. So Good Times was the most money I made. And I bet, at best, I probably made close to 50 grand. My peak year was 50 grand.
At what age?
Probably 21.
So right now, in the middle of this 15 video, we're in a wave pool in Japan, and I know there was an era where Japan was a huge industry to make money outside of the US.
Oh, Japan was huge. In the 90s, Japan was giant. We were going over there 4 or 5 times a year. Sometimes it would be for contests. Most of the time would be for promos. You do with the shop. You know, this was a wave pool in Kawasaki that we went to, and it was really fun.
Was this the first wave pool?
No, they had, I think, 3 of them in Japan. And, you know, there was Wild Rivers here in the US, and Japan was really the place where they just did wave pools better.
When you watch this, did you ever conceive the Wave Ranch or Waco? Because this is just a mushy, it's what we all knew as kids, like, oh, wave pool.
Yeah, chamber, hit the wall, bounce up, you catch at, and you know, this day was like, we surfed in the day and it's hot, and then they, you know, but in a dome, and then they're like, okay, now we're gonna do it at night, and then just made it black and put spotlights on you, and it was impossible.
I thought this was hilarious. For some reason, Benji's at Disneyland. And were you there for this?
Hey, I filmed this.
Okay, now we're moving into Greg's own section, and I really want you to tell the story of sleeping in Benji's driveway, because your opening waves here are what looks like back door in Hawaii.
Yeah, this is actually ain't.
Getting blown up.
Well, it's the only place that a guy like me could catch waves.
Sure.
So, out of our whole crew of guys, I'm probably the biggest pussy of all of them. There's no question. Those guys all are next level.
Would they try to drag you out to the big stuff, or you just...
I think at the first 16, we surfed. It was me, Troy, Eckert, and Ryan. We went over to Hawaii. The first day was small Waimea, like barely breaking. I bet Benji and those guys would say it's like small pinballs. But I said it was Waimea in my mind's eye. I did not catch a wave. I did not want to paddle in. I did not want to paddle out anymore. I sat so far away. I was so terrified. I thought the world was ending. I got made fun of. I probably still would get made fun of if I brought that up. Kelly was really good at making fun of me about that. They laid into
you for it?
Everybody.
Because
you grew up here, dude. Like, I don't do it. I don't know. You're like a fucking anomaly, dude. Like, I mean, there's guys that charge around here, but like, you just don't get that many things. And like, I don't like to surf those waves. Like, I love hollow waves that break on shallow reefs, no problem. But when it gets into that like over 8 feet range, and it's like, okay, it's just another level. There's more stuff involved. There's just more, and you can gradually get, you know, used to it after a time. But like, I never was that into it. I think some of the bigger waves I've surfed have been later on in my life. I've been out bigger days filming as a filmer. You know, a couple seasons ago, filming Jamie for his Red Bull thing. Like, you're swimming out on days where I didn't want to be out there, you know, even as a filmer, you know, sitting in the side. I'm like, it's just, there's people that feel a connection and a comfort in the ocean beyond what others do. And I love the ocean. I love being in the ocean. I love what it's given me. I love what it gives my kids. But I have a major fear still of certain conditions. And I'm willing to push myself more if it means providing for my family as a filmer than I was ever as a surfer, because it was all on me, and it was like, yeah, don't need it, you know. And then now it's like, fuck, I guess I'll take the camera and I'll swim out because I get paid today, and then I can pay my bills for the family, and we can eat and have a house, and you know, whatever it is. But like, that's how I look at it. I mean, there was a day this winter, God, we had like 6 solid days here, and you know, the way I said it is I surfed every day, and I had fun, but you know, my vagina was fluttering more this year than any other year, you know, and I don't know why. It's just, if you don't put a lot of time
in it. We'd like
to
thank Mountain Dew, our sponsor, for that comment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one, right? Sometimes, you know, you get out there and it's like, it's just not right. Like, I don't get as much exercise. I don't get that much opportunity to surf. Like, I surfed 6 days this winter. They were all, you know, 15-foot face or bigger. I probably surfed 12 other days that weren't those days. That's it, all winter. So like 18, 20 days is the extent of my surfing, you know? So like, I don't know, I wasn't as in shape, you know, maybe a little too much Mountain Dew. I don't know.
I think it's hard though, you know, and I think you're hard on yourself on the big wave thing, because I think of your generation, and it's such a platform for my generation. You're from the Shane Dorian era. So when you say they were all making fun of me, and people are like, oh, Shane Dorian was making fun of you, Kelly, like, these guys are not your normal, like, where you're coming from, most people would be like, I'm not even paddling out. But your generation was so, it broke every boundary. It seemed like it was important to be good in big waves and small waves. And like Todd Chesser seemed to be a huge influence in that.
Yeah, it's funny, like, the first time I met Todd Chesser was, we were at a party that I was with Ryan Simmons and Jack Johnson and Pete Johnson, and everybody was, drinking. I was 15. I was sitting there. Chesser was, on the Bud Tour as like one of the best guys. I'm just like, holy shit, that's Todd Chesser. This little 15-year-old kid. And he just looks over at me and like wants to fight me because I guess I'm staring at him. I don't know I'm staring at him. I'm this little kid. And, Pete Johnson gets in the middle and, then the next day he comes over to Jack's and they're playing croquet. And then we were friends and we were good friends. And like, it wasn't like I looked up to Todd because he was an incredible surfer, but like there's times to be around Todd and there's times not to be. So like generally when the waves are bombing, like probably don't want to be around Todd, so you kind of steer a little to the side of those guys. And those guys were just on a different path, like what they were trying to do and where I was going. That's probably why the competitiveness went away, because I kind of saw, hey, this is something that they're trying to go after that isn't on my radar. And I love to get barreled. Like, it's the best thing in surfing, hands down. But to chase that at Mavericks or to chase that at, some of those other spots is like, it's not in my makeup,
Which is fun. That's the best part of surfing, is it's whatever angle you want it to be, what makes you happy. It was funny when you were talking about Todd Chesser, his name started poking out of your sleeve of your shirt.
Yeah.
And you have his tattoo, and I remember as a kid going, who was Todd Chesser? And that's how I learned, because of the tattoo on your arm.
Yeah, so I think we were all great friends. That when Todd passed away, it was just a real pinnacle time in like all of our like young adulthood, and to lose a friend anytime is really detrimental to who you are going to become. But there was so many of us. Like the group of friends is huge. I mean, whatever the Momentum Generation showed on that movie, it's so beyond that. Even Taylor's movies, there's friends that extend out that weren't necessarily in a part in Taylor's movies, but they were part of the journey, and like that's what Todd was. It was like a time when he passed away that like everybody's like, hey, look at how many friends we have. Like we can keep going together. It was kind of, that's how I looked at it, is like, God, we're a strong group. This is so awesome. And like, we were over at Ross's house, and I think it was one of Akila's friends that did the tattoos. I can't remember. It was Fuzzy Night. But I'm terrible. Like you show me a needle, you show me a big wave. It's like, which one's gonna scare me more?
That's your first tattoo?
This is the first tattoo. I think the 17. I have a 17 one here too.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
They both hurt equally as bad.
But there's a few of you guys who got the Chesser tattoo.
Okay, this is my second tattoo. It is. This is my second one. But yeah, there's a lot. There's quite a few of us. More than people know. Like more than just the guys on there. And some of our friends didn't get it, but it wasn't that you didn't get it because you didn't love Todd. You just didn't get it because that's what, some people drink beer, some people drink Mountain Dew, Alex. So, like, what do you want?
I love it. All right, next up we have one of the all-time favorites, Focus. And right around here, let's see, what year are we going into? 1994, made by Taylor Steele.
Yeah.
Was this the beginning of you and Taylor's relationship?
So Taylor and I met when he was doing, I think it was the year he was filming the first Momentum. He had just finished One Step Beyond, I think it was.
Okay. My favorite opening, and I think most everybody's too. Greg gets in a dryer. Is it Taylor or Taylor Knox? Who's the one
That's
pushing
Taylor
the
Knox.
button to turn it on?
We did most of these skits in one night.
Greg is crammed in jeans, a shirt, and shoes. Where are you?
This is in Encinitas. This is right on...
In a public laundromat?
This is the laundromat in Encinitas on Highway 1, right?
Dude, this is the best thing ever still.
There was I think there was a couple people.
Who came up with the idea to get in the dryer?
I did. I don't know why. It wasn't no challenge. It was like, just did it.
I love this.
It was Joe,
I thought you were going to throw
Benji,
up
and
right here.
Taylor, and I thought I was going to throw up. I'm terrible with that. This is our first, this is 19 years old. this is just turning, so the parents sold the house. We're kind of on our way, like, this is get your shit together. And when I met Taylor, and he was doing Momentum, I wasn't in Momentum. I had one wave in Momentum 2.
I don't have a volume thing. Huh? Oh, I don't know. Sorry, guys. But per that, what song is this? Because this is, again, I'm saying my favorite of everything. This is my favorite section of you. What song is that?
This is Strung Out. And I actually got this from my friend Dickie O'Reilly. We listened to punk rock music growing up. Like, I was like all of it. So when I met Taylor, he was into punk rock music. So I gave him Pennywise, I gave him this, I gave him Peg Boy, I gave him Youth Brigade, I gave him everything that like me and my friends were listening to.
Did you know Pennywise? Did you know Jim Lindbergh, the band, or was it just because you were associated at South Bay, so you knew who Pennywise was?
Well, I knew who Pennywise was. My brother grew up, is a little bit older, so he went to school with Byron, the drummer, and
God, that was crazy. I'm rewinding that. Sorry.
I met all those guys once I gave Taylor. This is their first it's their second album, but it was the first one.
Dude, look at your style. I'm sorry, I had to just point that out. Your whole generation seems so much more focused on style than the current generation. Like, you see everybody's parts, and the arms are so still. It just seemed like you guys were consciously trying to have good style.
Well, to me, Kelly was already pretty much an anomaly. When I have a black and white with his Kelly Slater black and white poster with his autograph. He doesn't know he signed it to me, but he signed it to me.
I have an old Pure Juice poster of you, Kelly, and Ross, by the way.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was, so I looked up to those guys. I looked up to what they were doing style-wise. There was an air of Kelly where his arms are perfect, his knee is down on the board, and it just looked awesome. So you're always trying to emulate that, and they were around more, and like Ross Williams, I still think to this day the best style in surfing is potentially Ross. I mean, because he had the tail sides, but he had the power. Like, I think it's in Good Times. Like, his hacks in there are just next level, And Ross, you don't look at Ross and go like, okay, I'm gonna see a powerful surfer. He just doesn't look that part necessarily, but like the best style, the most power. And so I always looked at what he was doing, and that's when you kind of saw Benji, and like Benji was like a little bit of Ross, a little bit of Kelly, a little bit of Curran. He kind of strung together so many different styles and made it look so easy. That's one of my favorite things about watching other people is not necessarily the maneuver they're doing, but the style that they do the maneuver with, right? Like that flow that they have, which is why I think that's such a big part of surfing is when they say, speed, power, flow, like
they leave out style now.
But
it's not in the judging criteria of the World Tour.
That's kind of what flow is. Like, I mean, there's guys obviously that might do rail to rail surfing, which flows and their arms are doing other things. But then to me, that's not what flow is, It's like, yeah, his rail works great, but like, his left arm is where his right arm's supposed to be, and his head's cut off, and, so.
I've stopped the video, and I want you to please give us the story, because this is a clip of you getting ridiculously barreled at Backdoor. One of my favorite stories was your first winter, sleeping in Benji's driveway in a car, and that was your first...
So it was our second year to Hawaii. The first year I went with Ryan Simmons, and he was friends with Jack Johnson. And the second year we had already met Benji and those guys, but we tried to go for 2 weeks rather than 1 week. And Ryan and I, my grandpa lives on the South Shore, so my grandpa rented a car for us. We were 16. Which 2 week winter break from school meant that you were going over Christmas and Christmas Eve, and we parked our car in Benji's driveway, which is now one of the Volcom House driveways.
Yep.
And there was no downstairs, it was just one level, and they had so many people packed into that house, so there was no room, but there was more room in the car. So I slept in the front seat. It's like an old Buick or something, and Ryan slept in the back seat. And it was Christmas morning. Barbara comes out, and she's like, which one of you is honking the horn? And I guess I was laying on the horn sleeping. I didn't know, and yeah, she is pretty funny. But yeah, it was that, like, but to me, it was like a winter break vacation, because I could only do 2 weeks out of school. Like, those guys went for months, you know, like 2 months, a whole winter. Like, that's how you get better. That's how you know, an 8-foot day in Hawaii, it becomes like a, you know, like a 12-foot day in California to you, you know, like you figure it out. But going in at 2 weeks, you're like, you just don't have the time, and there's so many other cool things going on that it just wasn't enough to dig in. And like I said, so that bug of like trying to be, you know, any type of big wave Dave, it just never hit me.
It's funny you say 2 weeks. All of my stints on the North Shore, I had to stay for 3 or 4 months because it took 2 weeks to even feel comfortable. I did not until 14 days paddle out like with confidence.
Yeah,
There's something about jumping that water, everything. I was just so scared, and then 2 weeks go by, I'm like, okay, I'm a little more comfortable now.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had the feeling of comfort surfing Hawaii ever.
And it makes
sense. And I love the people. Some of my best friends, some of my best memories of surfing are there. But like, I was always a little nervous. I mean, when we were growing up, that day, that barrel at the end of Focus is an insider. Like, Johnny Boy was out that day. Like, the big guys that actually surf those waves, incredible. Like, if you've ever seen Johnny Boy or Dane surf backdoor, it is like game-changing next level. And it wasn't until like, you know, Bruce, Andy later that you're like seeing that again. But in like, those guys were, you know, I was just doing stuff that you would never dream of doing. Like, I surfed ain't.
Well, as a California kid, I know during those times the lineups were not friendly. You know, those guys held the waves down, and I bet as a California kid, you'd have to sit inside and wide.
Yeah, and when you're not trying to be the guy, like I was never trying to be the guy. Like, hey, we're all paddling out back door. Like, shit. You know, like, that's where we're going today. Like, I don't want to go there. You know, Benji's house, it was like, you showed up, you hung out, and you're like, God damn, like, that's where we're going, you know? Like, it just was never my thing. I loved it. I had amazing sessions. I never felt, you know, I don't know right or wrong to say, but I never felt that, like, I was afraid of getting eaten by a mad guy. I was more afraid of getting eaten by a wave. Mm-hmm. You know, so I sat on the inside because I didn't want to wave on the outside. You know, I did things for my own, like hiding from waves, not hiding from people, you know? And then later on, like, the guys that we grew up with were the guys at the peak of the lineup, you know? So then it's like, oh, you can go on this. Well, I don't want to go on this, you know? I remember I think I don't know if we gave clips to Kalani Chapman when I was filming for Body Glove one year, or we gave him suits or something. He goes, Greg, any wave you want out at Pipe, you can have. And, you know, it's not saying it's his to give, but like, that's how Hawaiians are. They want to share their waves with you. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, I don't want any fucking wave that you would give me, Kalani, at Pipe, because you take off in the most fucked up waves I've ever seen. So, like, I don't want that. Thanks, bro. You know? Maybe we go get Pupukea Grill. I don't know. It just sounds better for me.
Take a Locomoco instead.
I'll have a Locomoco.
All right, next up for you guys, we have Good Times. I think for me, focusing Good Times were, my favorite ones. But what stands out with Good Times sitting next to Greg is your name is on this cover.
Yeah.
And that, for me, tells me that now you are in the game, right? What changed to go from having a part to now being really one of the guys?
So Taylor told me, you know, I was like, what do I need to do to get more waves? You know, thinking like, as, you know, the surfer going like, are you just not putting me in because you don't like me? You know, I surf as good as Kelly does in my mind's eye, but, you know, hey, Greg, you don't surf as good as Kelly does, okay? I know you might think you do, but, like, you're slower. You're not as powerful. You got things to work on. And it was like, it's really Taylor. And Taylor's a good surfer, but Taylor just watches a lot of good surfing, too. So I didn't feel like he was being a dick when he told me that. I actually was like...
But he actually told you that?
Yeah, full on. It was like, hey, Greg, this is why. And I was like, okay, I need to surf faster. So when I would go surfing, I started just simplifying the thought process. It wasn't, go out, do an air, do this, look for that. It was like faster. The better way to do it was to stay low. So it's like faster, lower. If I could stay over my fins, I could use more of my rail. If I could work with the shaper a little bit more to, hey, here's what's going on. Watching the videos that I was shooting with friends and going like, how can I need to go from like, okay, Greg to like, there's a lot of middle room from Greg to Kelly, maybe a lot of room. So it was like, how can I get closer? And I had Mike Balzer. I was around all these guys. I had Howard to watch videos. So it was just a matter of, how do you start putting the pieces together yourself? I didn't have money to buy a coach, or to pay a coach, or I didn't have money for anything. So I just had enough to barely squeak through. So Focus, I had gotten to do one trip out of California with Taylor to France, and that was the time. And I think those couple waves, and Taylor he didn't put me at the start of the movie in Focus because I was the best. He put me because I only had like 2 clips. So Good Times was a chance, God, Dan was one of my favorites.
So we're watching Greg right now. Where
is in
are
Japan.
you?
This is in Japan. I was with Chris Malloy. We had just done a Focus tour in Japan. The two of us went with like Strung Out and RKL as heavy.
This is France?
No, this is South Africa.
I've always wondered where this was.
So this is a wave. So meanwhile, this whole time, the Gunston 500 is going on.
Ah.
And it's sloppy 1 to 2 foot Gunston.
I don't know. Here's the guy that says he doesn't charge, and this is still one of my favorite backdoor clips out of all the movies.
But look at it. I kicked out really fast. I was scared. I was like, should I just straighten out and go to the beach, or should I paddle back out? We had 10 days in South Africa.
So you stopped competing and started following the world tour because Taylor was filming these guys in between their
sessions,
contests?
Right? In between sessions on the tour. So They had to go to South Africa to do the Gunston, and then at this time it was Billabong was doing the Billabong Challenge.
Did you start working out? Because you're like twice the size here now.
No, so I started eating Cheez-Its on the regular.
I thought it was goldfish.
And this is the beginning of my Cheez-It infatuation.
Did Taylor, how did you know that you started surfing faster and Taylor was that you made it? So was there ever a moment where
we would watch
like,
clips every day? We'd watch clips every day, and it was Focus.
That's the turn.
It was when we were filming Focus that, like, it was just that trip. It was like, we watched footage and I was surfing as fast as some of the guys.
Please talk me through this.
So I don't know what happened.
What? I'm going to rewind one more time because... Were you and Kelly out in this section? Because I think he has a turn so similar.
No, so this day right here was just Timmy Curran, Joe Curran, Benji, and Aquila. And you can see I stare at Taylor because I was like, what the fuck just happened?
With the turn that you do, and I brought it up kind of towards the beginning of this, as it develops, you'll see it's your turn. Would you just hit a lip and go, I'm just going to hit this as hard as I can into oblivion and just hope I land it?
So... this is a cheating thing that, like, Mike Balzer taught me. So, Greg, the photo, man, just hold on to it long enough for the photo. Like, you keep pulling your feet off. You keep doing this. So I'd be like, fuck, I'm trying to, like, do the gnarliest turn I can think of, Mike, but, like, I can't keep my feet on, like, that long. And he'd just sit there and just, like, look, your foot's off. Your foot's off. So I just kept trying to, like, do a turn that looked awesome. And, like, he would always tell you, like, dude, why'd you kick out? You should have hit that section. And meanwhile, it's, like, the chunky on the sand, like, grossest looking. It looks great on a film. But, like, you're going to break your board. You're going to break your neck, like, something like that. But for him, it's, like, the best photo ever. So it was like, just hit it. Hold it. So eventually, like, some of them you'd hold. It would, you'd land in the whitewash. And then the whitewash would, like, pop you back up, like, accidentally. So, like, that one, in Good Times, like, you can see I turned partially under the lip and it like swatted me, but somehow it compressed me, and I was skinny and flexible. So like you were light enough that the whitewash would pick you back up. You maybe had, like, rather than like one stomach muscle, you had like a 6-pack of muscles to work with, and it would help. But like,
but I want to show you guys that we have one of your old boards here. Here, grab this thing before I stab you with it.
Yeah, it is a stabbing.
So I picked
surfboard.
this board up, right? And there's Mike Nolte. We love you, Mike.
So this
You
board,
immediately feel how thin this thing is.
yeah, it's hard to see it.
Here you go.
Probably
Roving
one-
cam. We're going
Let's see
rove.
what we got.
We're
here.
going rove cam.
Let's see what we got. So we got. If we look at this, take a little bit. My son rode this. My younger son Parker rode this to try it out the other day, and it is
18 and 1/8.
6'3".
Wow.
Yeah,
Are you serious? That's
6'3", 2 and a 16th.
It's not 2 and a 16th.
But the rails are so pinched, so it's probably 2 and a 16th in the middle, and then the rails taper down to about 1, maybe 1. But it's got the best elf
You gotta get that rocker.
scoop rocker ever in there. This board was towards the end of surfing, and I kept it. It had the Martin Potter airbrush because Martin Potter was one of my favorites. I think my brother told me I surfed like him one time, so he became a favorite. But I was just getting ready to have my first son, Drew, and I put on a couple local contests, the Greg Browning Winter Classic.
That's right.
And invited all the buddies to come up and like sign autographs and hang out.
That was the first time I met Kelly Slater. Greg ran a local contest at El Porto at Manhattan Beach, South Bay, and Kelly Slater showed up, and I couldn't believe it.
So I had all those guys sign the board for Drew, and still on there.
Thanks, Nolte.
And
Nolte.
yeah, it's awesome. It looks like one of them faded off. A couple of them faded off, but that's what happened.
Hopefully not the important ones like Donovan or something. Wait, what? Sorry. All right. Now we move into a chapter of Greg's life where tattoos were inked in to a brand called 17. And this movie here, Friday the 17th, is, in my opinion, the biggest surf cult movie of the 90s. Some people don't know it. I do. Tell us about 17. What was 17?
Wow, I almost choked.
You have a Mountain Dew. Yeah, Nolte, we need another Dew.
Any more?
Yeah, can you do them again?
Checking
Do 'em
the bat.
again.
We could do a commercial break.
You guys want to do commercials?
Greg,
All right,
yeah,
good.
Greg's on Dew too.
Yeah.
So
Grab one.
these are quarter dues, so these don't really count.
I wanted to make you
Even the
feel
real-
better about
the real
yourself.
deal.
What do you mean? Then you would have got me big cans or like a 32 ounce or big gulps.
At the store, they only have the massive big bottles with these little guys. It's terrible marketing.
You should have given him a huge bottle.
I would have drinking it. So Jason Weatherly, Jason used to get Snicker bars and 2-liter sodas, and that's what he would get. Like there's a shot of him in one video at Port Escondido with a Snicker bar and a 2-liter soda, and it was like that was Jason, and it's so good. It's so good.
Jason was the big dog of the group. So speaking of Jason Weatherly, we had 17, which was you, Jason, and Conan.
And Taylor Steele and Sean Mundy.
Taylor was involved.
Taylor was involved. So Jason was.
Did you drop Quicksilver?
I did. So we all kind of gave up our sponsors at the time to, this is about, I think around like 90, 95. What was 95? God, you're old when you start like doing years of everything.
I was 9.
You were 9. You rode for 17. 3 years.
17 was the first sticker on my board.
21. 22, right? So 22, 21, 22, and, not making much money surfing, just getting by, having an amazing time, have amazing friends. And Jason said he's going to start this clothing company with one of our friends, Sean Mundy, who used to he owned a company called Bandwagon, which did the Surfer Suck shirts. You remember those?
Yes.
Just said Surfer Suck.
Yep.
Everybody wore them. Well, my favorite one said, "No one knows you're gay," and it was like microscopic words, so everybody kind of have to go, "What does your shirt say?" Like what? And at that time, like what is gay? So it was funny. But anyways,
He's
so
hopped up on Mountain Dew for all
Yeah,
the people out there. He
PC
didn't
is
mean
better
it.
than coffee.
He didn't mean it.
They started it, and I was like, what am I gonna do? This is gonna be over next year. Like surfing's over in a year, right? Because I'm 22. I'm not a world champion or on the tour. Like
So that was really a definitive age that at 22 your career was probably going to end.
there was guys.
That's so short. That's the end of a college stint.
Right, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. Like, hey, 4 years to get your degree, 4 years to try to be at, a bachelor degree level in
But you're
surfing.
physically not even at your peak.
Not even close. I was done pretty much, and I think a lot of guys were kind of done surfing before they hit their peak.
Yeah.
Especially if you look at guys like Mick Fanning, who are Mick just constantly gets better. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, he rides waves differently. He understands waves differently. Like, that's a guy that is just continually aging better with his surfing, and yeah, at 22, you're like, okay, it's over. Wait, how am I going to make money to, like, the next chapter? And Jason and Sean were starting this, and they're like, hey, we're all putting in $5,000, and Taylor was going to do it. And I was like, okay, so, like, I'm ready. I have all the time in the world. I can still surf. I'll live down at the warehouse. We got a warehouse in Sorrento Valley. It was right next to tons of waves.
Wait. But you're going to live down in the warehouse.
I couldn't have the money because I dropped my sponsor. So, like, your clothing sponsor is a big chunk of your money. And at that time, when you have no clothing sponsor, I think I had Airtight Wetsuits at the time, this Japanese company after I left Quicksilver, because Quicksilver was everything. And so yeah, it was Airtight Wetsuits, and Murasaki had a little bit of money, and
did you sleep in the warehouse?
Yeah, so I had an office, and my job was to, like, I did sales, I did everything because I had no skill set. Right, but I was super eager to learn, so I dropped off cutting, so I picked up cutting. So
But as we go through all this, you're like the most motivated human ever. Like, in all of these movies, you filmed, edited. You say you had no skill set, but you were a very driven, focused person to make it this far. We saw it in the first movie we watched.
Well, like, those guys, like the guys I was trying to hang out with, I always put at a certain level. So, like, I wasn't getting the money to necessarily do it the same way that everybody was, so had to try to navigate my own way. Like, I want to go to France, like, nobody's buying my ticket to France. So,
were you one of the first free surfers, if I can use that word?
Well, I think that maybe I stopped competing at that time, and was like, because of Mike Balzer and because of that relationship, all the people that I'd met through him, the guys at the magazine's Flame, and everybody that was running things, I was able to make enough, like, photo incentive money to get places. And I worked at the Chart House, from like 16 to 19, pretty much doing anything and everything except waiting tables because I wasn't quite old enough. And I just hustled anything I could, like, but I loved to film. So when I would film, it was, Taylor's a good surfer, so I'd always be like, all right, Taylor, I surf for like 5 hours. Like, go surf. Ride my board. He's the same size as me, so he would go surf, not all the time.
Now you're talking about Taylor Steele.
Taylor Steele, yeah.
So Taylor Steele would be on the beach filming you.
For like 5 hours.
And then you would come in and say, hey, Taylor, take my board, go for a surf. I'll film Kelly, Rob, Shane.
Sure, whoever was out, I could push record. I can follow people. Like, I prided myself as much as anybody because that if it's your turn to be on the beach and film, and if you miss somebody's wave, well, they're definitely missing your wave. And if they don't do it today, they're doing it tomorrow, and tomorrow might be the day you got the best wave of your life, So, like, you prided yourself, and I still to this day, as much as I can with, batteries dying and cards filling up, is like, you want to get everybody's best wave. So, it was one of the years in France for Focus that Taylor had to go home. We were all staying an extra 4 days. The waves had finally gotten good. There was an amazing sandbar right there in Hossiger. So I kept Taylor's camera and tripod, and I'd already been there for 3.5 weeks. So we didn't get waves the whole time, but I'd already been filming. We had already had fun. So I just told Taylor, I said, hey, leave your camera. I'll just film. So there's a lot of stuff in Focus that...
You stopped surfing?
Yeah, I didn't surf at all, and I filmed because, like...
But you were one of the guys that was trying to get apart for the section.
Yeah,
that didn't freak you out?
No, because I think at that time, like, I had already... I don't know, I already did better than I thought I was going to do, like, as far as, like, I started surfing faster. I had an amazing trip, and it was, like, a first big breakthrough trip, so, like, I don't know, I just thought, like, hey, I can help the cause, It's not like I got paid at all to do it. I just did it because Like Taylor's one of my best friends.
So are some of these waves and good times focused? You filmed them?
So I think I filmed a few waves I know there's a few in Focus, a couple in Good Times. Good Times was more the back end that I helped with. So Good Times was the first movie done on a computer of Taylor's. And it was, before it was like machine to machine, Taylor had bought this computer system called Radius, and it was like the first non-linear editing machine. And I mean, what was that? What was the year of that one? Like 96?
Well, Friday the 17th is 97, so that was 96.
96. So 1996, they finally have computers that maybe can handle like video, but they could not. Like there was more drawbacks and drama with that. But
is that why one video was made a year? Because it took so long to make them?
They would film like a year and a half almost.
Because now, Instagram comes out with an edit every day. It was one video. I remember as a kid, we would wait one video and you're like, yes, Christmas, I need the new Taylor Steeler. Because there was only one.
But like, a lot
and it was
of those
45
guys,
minutes long.
A lot of those guys would it was only a few trips like that you could go on with Taylor, because those guys were chasing the tour, and like, us other guys were trying to like find time when Taylor was home, or maybe we could get on a trip. And it evolved as Taylor kept making videos. It evolved, But
so I'm putting Friday the 17th in. Filmed by
Taylor and Tom Rulon, and I think Pete Santa Maria is in there.
You can if you want to.
I can connect.
We had a battery change, people. We're back. We lost battery, but then we got our tracking hats on. We're going to roll Friday the 17th. Here we go.
Tracking hats.
Tracking hats are on. So there's a really funny horror parody that begins in this.
It went down, yeah. There you go.
Did we lose it? Here, we'll just twist your... There you
Get
go.
it in, get it in, get it in.
Yeah, that works. There is sound to this.
There is sound. So, Friday the 17th. So, I don't know if it's Jason or Taylor's idea to do a horror movie. But this is where the Weatherlys used to live in San Diego when they first moved to San Diego. It was like a Mission Bay. I thought it was like a trailer home. It is a trailer home. But this is Jorma Beckstrom, Ari Davis. Jorma was the best surfer in San Diego that actually got offered at one point to go money to do the QS contest, and like...
Really?
Yeah, Jorma ripped. Just so different of surf style.
But it seemed like he was the fastest career out of everybody then, because I didn't hear of him after this video.
And this is like past his like prime, but he's probably 24.
So you guys
23.
started 17, the company. It had one of the coolest logos ever. It's a number 1 and 7.
It's Jason's birthday. So Jason's birthday is on the 17th. So
Okay.
it was like, that's what we're going to do. Keep it simple. And that was it. We didn't think anything of it, Scott Sorensen, who was the, Taylor's cousin, graphic designer for Dragon, made our logo. Our other buddy did the trademark. Like, we were off and running. We did everything right. We had bank accounts. We had credit cards. We had an office. We were doing everything. We were selling a ton of stuff. We were just having like our first big season. We're like, hey, you're making it. You can fill these orders. You can do everything. Like, you're making it. And
so you were off to success in year 1?
No, it's like 2 years in.
Okay.
But pretty close. Like, Jason has awesome ideas. I think one of our drawbacks is we just made everything. Like, we made jeans the first year. Like there's no money in jeans when you're paying like $50 to make a jean and selling it for $55. There's no money. So
this is when I actually met you, and we just flashed on. And what I want to flash on is look at Greg's left bicep.
Yeah.
That.
So this, even though it looks like it's out of focus on the camera, is just out of focus because I'm old and it's smeared. No, you don't have to focus. It's smeared. Like, that's what that is. It doesn't matter what you want to do. So like, as you get older, like, your skin spreads and tattoos fade. It said October of 95. That's when we started 17.
And everybody got tattoos.
No.
No.
Everybody was gonna get tattoos. Conan and I got tattoos. But Conan was already a tattoo guy. Like,
did you do it together?
Yeah, we did the same day. He got one or two. he is like the most pain tolerant guy in the world. Like I literally put an earring through his nose. Like I stuck a needle in his nose to give him a nose ring one time. He's like, I want to get a nose ring. Like, let's just do it. And I'm like, what do you mean let's just do it? And he's like, just take this needle and put it through my nose. I'm all, what? And like, I don't know if you ever tried that before, but like.
With no, he didn't numb it, no nothing?
No, like we heated the needle up and I'm like, it would have been the greatest video ever. I am just like hammering this thing in and it's not going. Finally it popped and his eyes are watering, but he's not crying. He's not like moving. Like he was like a stone. Like, and I'm like, I was sweating.
So this is what was going on inside
So
the
like
17 factory?
we had one of their friends come over and he gave Conan a tattoo. He started giving me a tattoo and I just thought, like, I just heard my mom yelling at me in the back, like, I can't believe you're getting a tattoo. You're so disappointing. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm getting a tattoo. Like, God, what am I doing? Like, you know what? This is it. I'm grown up. This is where life is. Now, that's 22, right?
Wow, you're 22 here.
22, 95, 23, like, yeah, we think we're killing it. Like, 22, 23, you don't know what you're doing, you know? It was actually, after we finished this, Conan and I rode for Ezekiel together, and then he went and started Ruka with him and Pat Tenori, and super successful.
Of course, one of the biggest brands that we have now.
Yeah.
Well, now we're on to your section, and your arm just got chopped off, and you have a butcher's knife in the middle of your head.
So it's ketchup. And
It looks like a lot of ketchup.
plastic axes. And so this is like, everything happened at our office. Like we had a pool table, we had ping pong, we had, we were living in there, we had parties in there, we were shipping clothes out of there. It was like a hangout work combo. And we had editing bay in there, because Taylor would work in there, and Jeff Motil, who did graphics for him. A lot of this is filmed by Rulon, Tom Rulon, who is like one of the most incredible humans ever.
Is this San Diego?
This is actually Oceanside.
Wow, I always wondered where that was. Hey, that's your thing. You're always like, finish the wave.
South Jetty, Oceanside. South Jetty, Oceanside. I don't know if I've ever gotten barreled like that. People in Oceanside probably get barreled all the time, but like, I never surfed Oceanside when it barreled, and this is like, backside barrel was me and Jason and Rulon.
Okay, this next wave is very important to me.
This one.
Floater 360.
Yeah, it's funny.
I think you did him the best out of everyone.
Shane Magson always says that to me. You know what? It's like when you did a 360, at one point a regular 360 was the coolest thing in the entire world. Like Shane Horan was doing them to win the OP Pro. And then like you did a 360 in an NSSA and you got deducted points. And then Kelly started doing reverses. And then if you did a reverse, you'd get 10 points. And then
A
it
reverse
was like,
was 10.
Yeah, and then what if you did this floater, but then did it in a 360?
So that was a high-scoring maneuver?
It was just baffling maneuver at the time,
I just love how happy you are here. It seems like this must have been...
This is J-Bay. It's my first trip to J-Bay right here.
That was a runner. So I wondered on this section, do you think this is the best that you surfed? Because this, for me, is my favorite section of you out of all of them. It just seems like your speed,
this
your
is
power.
the change. You can see I have Quicksilver on my board here. And this was the last trip I did with Quicksilver. Was my first time ever going to J-Bay. And,
Is that Rocky Point?
It's Puerto Escondido, actually.
No way.
It's just small, Greg-sized waves.
Is this Porto too?
This is Porto too. This is like a 7-0. Like, this is retarded. I think I could have used help with boards and like brain some of the time.
But what about this backside air?
Yeah, so I think if I kept surfing, maybe like. Luckily, we have the tracking hats on. Rulon filmed that. That's Pacific Beach. I had booties. I claim that I made it because I had booties on. That's probably me saying, "Hey, look, I have booties on," so I made that air. That was like the time of like Rat Boy. Like Rat Boy did the craziest air anybody had ever seen at Seymour Lane, and you're like, "What the hell is that?" And he's wearing booties. Like, you take nothing away from those guys, whether they wore booties or didn't wear booties. Like, what Rat Boy and Barney and those guys were doing in Santa Cruz was like, it was game changing around the world. Because there's other places around the world where you had to wear booties. They weren't doing those airs, you know, like, especially at a wave like Seymour Lane. Like, he went left. Like, what is, like, it's just, there was a lot of cool stuff going on.
Were you wearing booties there because you wanted to do airs?
I was wearing booties on because it's cold.
Oh,
but it just so happened that I made the air. So, like, I don't know. Like, it was video was our generation. Like, we progressed because we had video. You didn't have to go on a trip with, you know, this high-paid budget to shoot film, and they used 3 waves from the session that you got. You know, like, it was video. You could watch everything, and you could watch it, like, right then. Like, we came in, we watched it. You rewound the tape 1,000,000 times, and until you were out of batteries or you broke the tape, like, you just watched, and, like, you could get better. And you could do that now, you know, still. It's like almost the same thing, you know?
So 17 at this point in time during our discussion is the sickest brand ever. You guys have the right people involved. You're successful. You're vertical financially. You've made a movie. You had ads in the surf mags. You're making this coolest board shorts that look like basketball teams. And it's non-existent now.
Yeah, we got in some like weird, bizarre lawsuit with I don't know, one of the bigger corporations. 3M Corporation owns 17 magazine, and we got a lawsuit, a cease and desist at the time, but it came in like a stack like this, and it went to all of us. Everybody involved got it. You know, whoever was filed in the partnership, which was all of us. You know, it was equal partnership.
5 of you.
Yeah, so we got. I mean, it got served. I got served papers to every address I had lived at, pretty much my whole life. Like my grandma's house, my buddy's house, like
Because you
everywhere.
took the name 17.
It was the way that it said. It was delusion. So because they didn't make clothes, guys or girls, the trademark that they have didn't include men's apparel, but they had it for the magazine. They had it for like plates and glasses and that kind of stuff, and it was just delusion that somebody would go like, oh, 17 apparel, that's 17 magazines. So they just did it that way.
So
you know?
what did you lose?
Well, at the time, you know, all of our money was tied up in production, which was, you know, making all of the product. And so our warehouse was full, but we couldn't sell it. They just put us at a total standstill. So at that time, it was like, everything's, you know, you got $500,000 in the warehouse of stuff. I got $40,000 of personal credit card debt to pay for that production because we were still so early on in the process of the company that we were using our own money because we couldn't get loans yet to fund it. So like I had probably about, you know, 35, 40 grand of credit cards that were being used for orders. Sean, everybody was vested in, right? Just beyond what we had. So when it ended, it was like, should we just change the name? But you're so invested, like labels and everything. So we tried to change the name to Cassius. Didn't happen. Basically, doors closed. I moved from living under my desk and having the greatest time of my life, you know, on a futon in Sorrento Valley to back up to the South Bay, and was actually just baffled, like, to try to become a professional surfer again. And it's like, you know, wait a second, like I've been going into shops saying like, hey, buy my stuff. Now it's like, hey, follow me, be a surfer again. It wasn't computing, and I was probably as nervous as I'd ever been. I think I was making about $1,200 a month. I rented a place back home. I ran into Ronnie Maestro, one of the owners of Body Glove at the time, and I'd known him my whole life. He ran the PSAA and the Bud Tour, like physically was on site running them, and he just said, Greg, what are you doing? I said, well, you know, this happened and I'm home now. And he goes, go in, talk to Scott Daly, we'll get you a job. We're here to help. And I was like, it was like a tear moment of like, holy shit, like, thank you.
I'm going to be okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I was nervous. I mean, I didn't have any responsibilities other than to take care of myself at the time, but like just to have somebody that like, I knew Ronnie knew me and I knew Ronnie, but like I never thought that he would come to like that age. Like I don't, I mean, he lives down the street now, but I don't think he has any idea of the impact that he made. I mean, I from that day, I was with Body Glove for, 19 years. I still do work for Body Glove now, just as an independent guy. But I mean, I was 19 years, 20 years, like not including any surf time before. Like I was physically like working as an employee. Like, I mean, my kids were raised in there, and yeah, it was incredible. So I should probably call Ronnie and say thanks.
I think you're saying thanks to him
Thanks,
right now.
Ronnie.
I've got one more video for you from Greg's chronological professional career, even though we just talked about how it was the beginning of the new chapter, but we have the show here. And a Taylor Steele video.
Yeah.
This is so fun.
So the show.
I love your skit in here, and it goes into one of your quirkiest aspects of your life, which is Star Wars. You're gonna drop the show in.
So the show. When was this one?
The show
98, right?
is 1998.
So 1998. We were still doing 17. This was full on 17. This is like the heyday of 17. We filmed all of this in San Diego and at 17. There's a lot of shots in our warehouse.
Oh, that's where all the blow-ups and stuff were?
Yeah, it was in that Sorrento Valley. I mean, it was us, Sector 9, Bandwagon, Xanadu. I mean, it was awesome. STV, which was the Weatherly's skate surf music channel. Skate, surf, snowboard even at that time.
Now, I think your name is on here, too.
So
yep, it is.
So this one...
Greg's one of 10 guys named on the back of this video.
Yeah, Taylor had talked to me and said, all right, you're in, if you put yourself on the trips and you get the footage, like, it's up to you. And
you were in for all the rest of the videos.
I was into like, hey, I want to shoot a skit. Hey, I want to, give you the opportunity. And I was like, I just don't think I realized what that meant. And I don't think I don't know what the right word is to say, just focused enough to know what that meant. So, I didn't put 100%, Scott Sorensen came up with all this stuff. And Scott is a Star Wars geek like me. So like, it's a really weird thing. Like to shoot this thing, this is like, I have an action figure that Scott made of this figure, of this character.
Where did you get the outfit?
So Scott made it. Jack Johnson filmed all this stuff. Jack was going to UCSB, so we drove up there. I was late like an asshole.
Why were you late?
Because I suck. Because I'm selfish. I don't know.
You're the most unselfish person I know.
I don't know, man. It was like, hey, Greg, let me just have the stars align for you, and then you could blow it. And that's kind of what this is,
I've always wondered, you find this videotape and then you put this device over it.
So
what is it?
This device is the top of the Canon XL2, broken.
Okay.
And
can we do low sound on this?
Yeah, we can do low sound.
It's just the music. The music might block us if it's music.
Talking?
If it's no music, it's fun.
Oh, really?
Honey, what is on this?
Oh.
I mean, Jack shot this on film.
There you go. I love this. The song of
So
this
Jeff
part is
Motiel
so
did
good.
this tracking. What is this song?
We'll play just a quick second of it.
So we're watching.
The turns you
This
do
is
here.
This is in Australia. Kalani, Jason, and Rob, and Taylor. And we found this sandbar. It was so fun.
What part of Oz?
And
Oh
Tom
my
Survey.
God. Okay. This is
the first trip I did with Tom Survey. Man, that guy was awesome.
you're surfing so good here. You're like so powerful. Everything seems Like you're now, this really feels like you've come into your own, and this is about to be the beginning of like really peaking in surfing. Look at this turn.
23, right?
That was ridiculous. That's as good as a cutback gets.
So
When you went in film sections, did you have an idea of what you wanted your section to look like, so you would do those maneuvers to try to curate your section?
Oh yeah, this sounds awesome.
Where's that?
Same wave.
Holy
Dude, we
crap.
scores like 3 days of it.
It's a sandbar?
It's a sandbar. Like, it was crazy.
But you didn't think in your mind before you paddled out, you're like, I'm going to do that big old cutty that I know I can do.
No, like when I'd go surfing, like I said before, like there was just that point, like, hey, it's fast and low, and that's literally all. I'd go out and I'd look at the wave, and like, okay, we're gonna get barreled, or hey, you could do, maybe do airs, but it was really like fast and low. I mean, I still say it today, even though I can't get as low and I can't go as fast, but I try, and I think that was really it. So I messed up. Like, this was kind of the beginning of, like, I think I was just too, I don't know what it was, man.
Here, bro, you need a Mountain Dew for this next part.
Maybe
of your
that's what
life.
it is. This is the big zone for Greg right here.
This is the zone that I wanted to eventually get to, because there's one movie, and I don't have it here right now, but it's Loose Change, and you notice that Greg's name is now dropped off from being a part of the videos.
Yeah, so when 17 came to an end, I'd moved back home. I had met a girl. I'd gotten married, and I had my first kid. And
At 26?
24.
24.
Yeah, well, I got married right at 24. I just turned 25, and then he was born, Drew.
True.
And what an eye opener, like. God, I remember graduating high school and like having dreams for like 2 years, like. I failed economics, hey, you didn't graduate, that was always the dream. And then you have a kid and it's like, you wake up and like, hey, I didn't, I left him in the car, like something like just so horrific that you were selfish. So like your life changes when you have a kid that's not about you. And that was like, how do I go? Oh, I guess we're not tracking
No, we don't need
anymore,
tracking
right?
anymore. So now you've lost your sponsor, you got married, and you have a 1-year-old. But you're working at Body Glove.
And I started surfing. So right when I started working at Body Glove, I was like, God, they started me helping out with, like, as a team manager, helping one of the guys that was there. It was James Crush and Scott Daly there, and I was helping them. But James Crush ran it, and it was his job, and it was his thing, and he was awesome. So they didn't need anything from me. It was really them like throwing me a bone. That's what it felt like. Like, hey, Ronnie said, give Greg a job. So like, find anything. And then I went and worked in the art department with Mark Kawakami at the time, and having no art skills. I can't draw, like you would. I mean, I have chicken scratch writing. I can't draw. Like, that creative side doesn't function in me. So he taught me how to like lay out ads. So I learned Illustrator and Photoshop, but there's nothing for Greg to do. So I, sat down with Scott Daly and just said, hey, what's the chances of Greg trying to be a pro surfer again? Like, getting a little bit of money every month to help out and try to travel and go film and whatever, I got a kid coming. Actually Drew was maybe 1. So like I was in. And he's like, well, this is how much we can give you. And it was like $500 a month. But Ezekiel came in at like $1,000 a month. So I was making $1,500, paying out probably $1,200 to live. So I had $300 to try to become a professional surfer.
Jeez.
So I tried, photo incentive deals. Mike Balzer still, and I tried to make a go out of it. Worked with Chad Campbell, one of my friends from the Big Island.
Made Fifth Symphony.
Made Fifth Symphony, and just tried to help navigate with him to get money to make this movie, because Chad is an incredible filmmaker and just human, and it was like, what was I doing? I was doing anything. I was hustling. I was buying diapers and formula and trying to like live, and be a dad, and really with no identity, to be honest with you. Like, maybe people knew me of being like a pro surfer from the South Bay because there really wasn't anybody here after, the Ted Robinsons and the Chris Frohoffs and Kelly Gibsons and, that. So it just, but I didn't have an identity. Like I was lost, man. And I had a kid and I was scared and nervous and I just kept trying to find something. And, fast forward a couple years of trying to struggle and do that. And I talked to Taylor. My brother's 2.5 years older than me and got me into surfing and always supported it. And I'd get home from a trip and he'd always say, like, how's the trip? And I'd be like, oh, we scored waves. And he'd be like, dude, I know you got waves, but what else did you do? Was there girls? Did you guys go party? Was there like, what else did you see? Did you see animals in South Africa? Did you go on safari? And I'd be like, wow, like, yeah, we did all that. It was awesome, but like, I don't have any pictures of it because I didn't have an Apple iPhone or I didn't have a camera to shoot all that stuff. So I told Taylor, I said, hey, why don't we make a video where it's just, we film everything. And, the Malloys had started making, movies. Jack was making movies. It seemed like the most logical thing for me because I loved filming. I loved editing. Skill set, not the greatest, right? I mean, so I just started trying to buy stuff. I bought a little underwater camera and the housing. And
So have you walked away from Taylor Steele as a professional surfer indefinitely now?
yeah, loose change. I went one trip to Puerto Escondido. I was up here. It wasn't that I walked away. I couldn't afford that dream. And honestly, I felt like I disconnected myself a lot.
With that group or as a professional surfer?
I think that was probably the dilemma. Is like it was both. It was like you're what are you as a professional surfer when you're not doing a contest and you can't say I'm 32 I'm 1. Like, what are you? And it's like the magazines, you could get a shot in a magazine, but like honestly, like if you just got the best wave that day, you could get a shot in the magazine. You might not have got the $400 photo incentive for it, but like you got the shot.
But your lifestyle at that point was that you were only as good as your next move because you're not on a tour, so you don't have a schedule, right?
Yeah.
You're only as good as, well, what am I going to do next?
Yeah, and I wasn't, Taylor had kind of done a little, he didn't do like a hiatus, but there was a little gap in stuff. Everybody was on, Kelly was like at that point hunting world titles. It was game on. The guys that were staying on because they were fighting to stay on. It was at that time Ross was, had just gotten hurt with his ankle. He had a terrible ankle thing that really kind of shortened his, competitive surfing, I would say. And just guys were staying on, guys were falling off, and it was like a separation. Like our time was that chunk of focus and good times, and then the show, I don't know, maybe that was like a letdown or something. I let somebody down, and I don't know, it was tough. It's so weird it's actually weird to talk about because I don't know what it was other than just like you go into survival mode. Like, what do you know how to do?
That's why I'm here right now doing this with you.
Yeah.
I'm in the same exact place, but at 33, so I can relate to everything you're saying. What was your relationship like with the family at that point? You have a wife, kid.
Yeah, I had a wife and a kid, and
you're moving into wanting to create your own project.
I told Taylor, I said, hey, look, what do you think about this? And MTV had just done. It wasn't Road Rules. It was their other one that they did at the time where people lived in a house together, and so reality TV was beginning, and I was like, why don't we? No, it wasn't Big Brother. It was, God, it's one of those things that like everybody knows is watching this. You can just chime in and tell me.
In the comments below.
Comments below, type it in.
Swipe down, up,
Swipe
left,
left, swipe left, swipe right.
You can get a Mountain Dew if you swipe just perfectly
I
right.
should drink a Mountain Dew.
Have some more Dew, bro.
So, what was it?